Hey, and welcome to the Jessica Paul podcast. I'm your host, Jess Paul, actress, manifestation expert, and mindset coach. And I'm here to share with you all of my secrets on confidence, success, and the magic of manifestation. If you're ready to dive in deep and see more success in your career, more money in your bank account, and more love in your life, with a whole new level of freedom, then you're in the right place. I'm letting loose on everything you need to take back control of your life, up-level your mindset, and tap into your manifestation powers. I'm so excited that you're here. Hello, you gorgeous souls, and welcome back to another episode of the JP podcast with me, your host, your manifestation mentor, your spiritual bestie, all the way from LA. I am here now. I have arrived. I'm so excited. Welcome back, guys. So obviously I've been throwing some amazing guest interviews your way because I had them all pre-recorded, because I wanted to really just enjoy my experience when I came out here and stay really present and be in the moment, and I have been doing that, and so many things have happened already, so many things have manifested. And today's episode is actually a conversation with me and my very good friend Taylor, who I'm staying with whilst I'm out here. And Taylor's just an absolute gem. She's been on the podcast before. She is a love and relationships coach. So she's been on the podcast talking all about dating, relationships, feminine energy in relationships. And she personally helps me out a lot as well, because it's a side of my life that I have been continuously working on. And in this chat today, we literally just hit record, and you guys are going to be like a fly on the wall to hear the conversation that we have on a daily basis. And now that we're together, actually in person, these conversations are happening literally from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep. But of course, a life update before we get into today's episode. As you all know, guys, I'm here in LA. So many things have been happening. So I got here and I actually was ill again. So I really feel like my body was just recalibrating to everything whilst I've been here. And I've been kind of ill this whole time, but not really like to the point of not being able to do anything. Just like my body has been shifting and recalibrating. And I feel like today is probably the first day that I'm like getting over it, which is all very aligned because we are also moving into the spring equinox. It's really the new year in astrology. We're moving into Aries season, which is a season all around, you know, taking that initiative. It's big explosive energy, things are happening, and that's really what I feel like is happening for me right now. But honestly, guys, since I've got here, everybody has been so welcoming. I've met so many incredible people, like people that are just helping me out with things, like for nothing in return, just really selfless, lovely people out here. And I'm honestly feeling like this was always somewhere that I was meant to be. And it's so funny because I was having conversations with my clients about, you know, like really embodying the version of you that you want to be. And for me, like I've always had people tell me, you really would suit LA, like you really would suit this Californian vibe. And that's because I created it myself. That's because that is the vibe that I've always wanted to live with. And it's been so incredible actually landing here and grounding myself here and being in it. There's still so much I have yet to do. Like I have explored all the main places that you would explore when you get here, but I'm actually traveling over to Orange County with Taylor as well, and that's going to be another exciting chapter as well. So I'm getting back on the dating scene, guys. Like this is happening. I did promise that I would update you with these things because of some of my previous podcast episodes about men and relationships and dating, and it's obviously a topic that Taylor talks about too. But for me, I've got a date booked in, so you know, like things are happening here, and these are all things that have just allowed me to open myself back up again, because I went through a pretty rocky year back in 2022 with my health, and I finally feel like things have recalibrated, and yeah, just very excited to keep you updated with everything. So let's just get into today's episode. Me and Taylor are talking all things Saturn Return. I'm actually going through my own Saturn Return at the moment, and we're talking about what that actually is and how it's working out for me, because it started off with a bang for me, guys. And the big theme really has been love and relationships and breakups and heartbreak. Not that I'm going through that right now, but it's something I went through 3 years ago, and it's something that has kind of gone full circle for me right now. Very Saturn return energy. So me and Taylor are discussing our Saturn returns and what's been happening in that, going in on heartbreak and all of those things, the things that we know that we feel in our heart. And these are just conversations that we have daily. We're going in on taking big leaps, following your intuition, because both Taylor and I are also going through some big life transitions at the moment for ourselves. Taylor's moving out, she's moving to a new place, and I myself obviously have landed here in LA. So, we're just riffing together, and I know that you guys are going to love it. So if you have loved this episode today, please do tag us both on your Instagram stories. Let us know who's been listening in. We love to see who is listening in, and let us know how you found it. But we are probably we're spending a lot of time together whilst I'm here, so we're probably going to be doing a few more of these things, and we're also going to be doing a little collaboration that is on the cards. I'm very excited to get into a space with you guys again, get into like a masterclass energy with you guys again, because it's been so long since I've released a new offer and got in there with you all and really dug deep into our mindsets together. So that is on the cards too. That is something you can keep an eye out, keep a lookout for. But without further ado, I'm just gonna let you guys listen in like a fly on the wall to our conversations. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll chat to you all next week.
Oh, we're just diving right in.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I went through my Saturn return already. And now you are in yours. You've just entered yours. Mine was in Capricorn. Yours is in Pisces. These are very different energies. So I'll give a brief synopsis of what happened during mine, and then we're going to dive into what's already happening for you. At the very beginning of my Saturn return, which would have been 2017-ish, I think, the end of 2017, went through a breakup and had my first psychedelic experience where I did a lot of daddy healing, and met the most amazing, incredible man who I had the best relationship with just a few months after that. And that relationship lasted my entire Saturn return and ended right when my Saturn return ended, as well as starting a business and learning how to make money as an entrepreneur, which is very Capricorn. A ton of beginnings and a ton of endings. It really was an experience of multiple deaths and rebirths. And now is your turn.
Oh my God. Yes, it is. So I actually, because I always dive down deep in holes in things like, whether it's numerology or astrology or all these things. But the other day, my assistant Frankie was like, Jess, are you in your Saturn return? And because I was explaining a few things to her that I was like going through, I was feeling a little bit anxious about some things, and she's like, hang on a sec, like, what year were you born? And then I just went down this hole, and I was like, okay, what does this mean? Like, what does the Saturn return even mean? And it was a big thing for me. I was like, okay, so Saturn energy is very grumpy energy. Like all the things I was learning about was
it's like grandfather energy, like grumpy granddad.
Literally, like just this grumpy male energy of like, okay, kind of restriction, kind of like a lot of karmic lessons to learn and things like that. And I was thinking, but I have literally over the past 3 years worked my ass off on myself, in my own self-development, in the things that I've been doing. And so I was like, no, I don't want to go into a new phase, a new like cycle of, like hardship. But I truly believe that my Saturn return now, given all the work that I have done on myself over the last 3 years, is going to be full of blessings, because the whole point of it really is that like, you go through these lessons, you do the things that, are coming up for you. And when you can learn the lessons, that's when you're going to be blessed. And when I was doing the research, for me, in my placement, Saturn is in my 4th house, which is the house of family and roots and self-esteem, and really working on those kind of like relationships and the relationship to yourself. And what I was reading was that when you can really learn the lessons in that house with your Saturn, with the Saturn energy, then the house directly opposite to it, which is my 10th house, is the house that you'll see your blessings in. And the 10th house for me is the house of career. And just basically, not necessarily career, but a lot of people say it's the career house because that's the kind of life that we live in now. But it's just like your highest purpose, really. And that rings so true to me because I've obviously come over to LA. I'm here with you now.
Sitting on my couch. The last podcast we did was over Zoom with a little bit of like hiccups, and now we're just snuggling on my couch in our sweats during a rainy day.
It's insane that I'm actually here, because me and Taylor have been chatting for the last 3 years.
Yes.
When I first started my journey on all of this, and when we first started our businesses, and it was something I've always said, I'm going to come over and visit you, and it's finally happened. And what was really weird when I was looking into my Saturn return and the dates of everything, because Saturn went into Pisces on the 7th of March, and I booked my flights to come to LA on the 8th.
Which was also International Women's Day.
It was. And for me, it was just such a random date. Like, you didn't even know when I'd booked. I just was like, just the 8th of March, like, really random. Yeah. And then all these things fell into place, and I was like, oh my God, Saturn literally went into Pisces the day before.
Like, lifted you up from your home, put your ass on a plane, and flew you out here and was like, listen.
It was mental. I was shook by that. And then the other thing that happened, which we've had many a conversation about since getting here, was that an ex of mine who had a big kind of impact in my life 3 years ago, and changed the course of my life in a lot of ways, he actually came back into my life. And this guy I had not spoken to for 3 years. We had not had any contact with each other for 3 years. Over the course of those 3 years, I was doing my healing, I was sorting my shit out, I was becoming the woman that I am today, I was creating my business. And 3 years later, to the date, right? Because I first noticed it because he started, he'd unblocked me off Instagram. And I didn't really think much of it because for me, like, it was 3 years ago now, But I noticed it. And I noticed that happened again on the 7th of March, literally the day that Saturn went into Pisces. And I just thought, okay, there's no coincidence here. And then a few days later, I did actually receive a message from him. And for me, that whole experience was just like absolute closure of a chapter.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, but I really, really feel like this Saturn return for me is going to be just full of luck and blessings because the chapters are closing now. New ones are opening, and new ones are opening as the version of myself that I am today. You know what I mean? But that was a really big, significant moment for me. And it brought a lot of feelings up to the surface again. A lot of that heartbreak that I had felt all those years ago came all the way back. And I hadn't really felt that in a while. And in some ways, it kind of gave me a new lease of life. Mm-hmm. In a weird way. It made me feel again. Like, it made me feel why I even started my business in the first place. Why I really started my self-development work in the first place. So, again, I have him to thank for that. Like, I have him to thank for leaving me in the first place, but I have him to thank for this too.
Yeah, and I know one of the things that we want to talk about here is a conversation that we had pretty in depth last night about how when you are a woman who experiences heartbreak on that level, and it's so painful that it literally rocks you open, there's like this feeling, this like sealant almost, that when you start to heal your heart and it comes back together, it's not as open as it used to be. It's like more closed. It has like this shell around it, or this like sealant around it. That's why, like, that's what comes to mind, like this plastic around it that no matter how hard you try, it just feels like your heart is a little colder. And we're the type of women who are consistently doing the work to open our hearts and be open and have that warmth and to know what love really is. But I think that once you've done the healing, but your heart really has been that broken, it kind of seals itself up. And so to watch you sort of crack back open on the couch, it was just a wonderful experience for both of us, even though clearly painful, because we both have gone through this. And I'm more fresh on my journey with this in the last year, and I'm healing and I'm healing all the time. But it helps you remember, like, there shouldn't be so much of a fear of the pain. It's so normal. This is actually what gives us life. Like, texture in life is what gives us pleasure. We wouldn't know the depth of joys and happiness and pleasure and delight if we didn't know this heartbreak too, and we were just sitting in this numbness all the time.
That is so true. Because I even said to you, when I did break down, and I said, okay, we've got Grace. We've got Grace on my lap. You guys can't see, but Taylor's got the most gorgeous cat, and she's about to walk over the microphone, so...
we'll edit her out.
Oh no, and now she's like wrapped in the wire.
Come
Here
here.
we go.
You need attention.
Yeah, when I was breaking down on your sofa, and I was actually feeling the feelings that I hadn't felt for the last 3 years. I mean, saying that, you know, when my ex walked away from me, I had a year of it was the biggest death and rebirth for me, like, because I obviously was grieving him, but I was creating my business at the same time, and my business blew up that year. It blew up. It was almost like, I would say this all the time, the universe had ripped him from my life to create that space, and it was just like full force for me. But when I was feeling those feelings again, just before, it really brought back this passion again for me and my business. And, you know, because I'd been feeling a little bit weird for the past year because I got really ill at the start of 2022. And since then, like, I've been in a quite a weird place, just like, again, diving deep into healing, diving deep into safety. And, you know, one of the things with me as well is that I'm a Taurus moon, and so, like, for me, that safety aspect is so important, especially when it comes to relationships, which is, again, something my Saturn return is teaching me. It's saying, okay, in that fourth house of, like, roots and home and family and relationships and self-esteem, you've got to keep working through those lessons. And so I think this relationship for me was a big one in that. So, like, it's been interesting as well talking to you about the love and relationships and men and dating, because that for me is part of my big karmic lessons, I feel, that's going to propel my business and my career to the next level, which makes so much sense, right? So, as I was saying before, with Saturn being in my fourth house, and the house directly opposite to that in astrology is the house that when you go through the lessons in that fourth house, you'll see the blessings there. So it's no coincidence that when I've worked through this breakup, you know, 3 years ago, I saw the boom in my business, and I feel it coming up again. I feel it happening again. It's like there's more work that needs to be done with those roots and those relationships that's just going to go boom in my business. I don't know how you feel.
Well, I'm laughing because, you know, this is why artists are specifically people who will go find pain and create pain in their life to crack open deeper and create more art, more music, more whatever it is. And here we are, we're artists. And yet I'm like the queen of being like, don't date artists, because they're looking for pain. Like, they want to create pain. They want to create suffering so that they can create more. So it's so funny because I'll be the queen of like, don't date that person. But then I'm also like, but like, that is what gives the world so much good shit, you know?
It is. And we are artists. Like, let's be honest, we're both actors. Like, we both come from that background, and poets and writers, and that's just in our soul. Like, that's who we are. Yeah. And that's never going to go away.
Going through my breakup, I literally wrote an entire poetry book and self-published it in 1 month. And had like a book signing in Venice Beach, just because I was in it. And like, now I look at that poetry, I'm like, I wrote this, you know, like, I'm just like chilling now, and I don't feel this anymore.
Literally, we were saying, like, me and Taylor are so similar. Like, we've done so many of the same things, and then we come together and we're like, what the hell? Like, because I wrote a poetry book years ago when it wasn't really through a breakup, but it was through a bad time that I'd had. And you look back at those poems and you're like, oh my God, where was I? Like, I was somewhere dark.
I love it though.
But no, like, it's this Saturn return for me has like started with a bang, and obviously these go on for
3 years.
Yeah, like 3 years. So yeah, I think that mine is, yeah, I think it's in and out, isn't it, over the course of like 3 years until you're like in your 30s.
30, 31, and this is going to be such a cool moment for you to even have this podcast and go back in 3 years and listen to this podcast and remember where you were sitting on this couch and where you will be. It's going to be really wonderful for you and your audience to watch it happen. Yeah,
I'm really excited to document it, because I think a lot of people also go through their Saturn returns without realizing, and it's nice to know. I'm glad that I have done so much research into it now. Mm-hmm. But for anybody that has gone through their Saturn return, it basically is just every, like 27 to 30 years, that's when Saturn comes back around again. So we only have like 2 to 3 in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And weirdly, my mum is going through her second Saturn return with me. So she actually gave birth to me in her first Saturn return. And she was saying to me, it's so strange because she herself has been really transforming things in her life. Like she's literally booked to jump out of a plane. Like she's booked to do a skydive, and that is so not like my mum.
Yeah.
My mum is usually very kind of like, she keeps herself to herself and she's quiet and she's just doing these crazy things. And I said to her, you know that you're in your Saturn return too? And she was like, what does that even mean? And so I've been teaching her about it, and she was like, I just feel I feel like you were meant to be here to tell me these things, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so I guess the question is now, how do you like LA? Is it everything you thought it was gonna be?
Oh my God, I'm just so excited to be here because, like I said to you, when I got here, something shifted energetically. So, well, obviously I got here and I was really ill.
Yeah.
I got like the plain lurgy. I got here, I was like coughing all over the place. Taylor was like, don't do that in public, please.
COVID is still a thing in LA.
Yeah. No, but I'm all good now. But energy shifted, like something happened. I remember posting right before I got on the plane at just like a weird time on Instagram about how I was sat in an airport on the way to see my best friend. She lives in Mallorca. And this was just after my ex had broke up with me. And this was 3 years ago. And I was an absolute mess. And I remember just feeling like I just wanted to run away from everything. And I was sitting in the airport thinking, this is going to make me feel better. And I got to Mallorca and I had the worst time. Like, it's iconic. Like, my friend Jess will tell you, it was just hilarious. Like, it was raining and I was so upset and I was crying every day, and she was like, oh God. And that was a moment where I just felt like relieved to be running away, but it didn't really make me feel happy. And that's when I knew I had to dive deeper into this healing work. And then I had one of those like full circle moments when I was getting the plane to come to LA, because LA had been on my vision board since the beginning. You know, I always knew I wanted to get away and travel the world, but I always thought, right, the West Coast, California, it seems like it's the place where I should go for a lot of reasons. Obviously, it's a very creative place, you know.
I'm here.
You're here. And so it was like kind of a surreal moment when I was sitting in the airport thinking, my ex has just come back into my life, plus I'm actually getting on going to board a plane that's been on my vision board for the last 3 years after doing all this work, and I'm feeling in a completely different place. Like, I was just, all I felt was freedom. And I got here and things just shifted, didn't they? I was just like, I was on fire, and I just feel like you guys listening in and you guys following the journey, you all want to hear it, and you're also excited by it as well, and it's really, really nice. So yeah, I feel like we're gonna create a lot of magic here.
Oh my gosh, I mean, it's already happening. So one of the things that we've been talking about a lot
I mean, obviously we just talk and talk and talk
Yeah,
and talk.
we do.
You guys are on literally a fly on a wall right now. But one of the things that we talk about a lot is this, like, you know, leap when you're scared and follow your impulses anyway, and how your environment can really change your life. And I spent 10 years in my condo in Venice, and I was so afraid to leave it. And when my ex and I broke up, it was just one of those things where, yes, I could have stayed, you know, but it was just like, I just knew full body, like, I have to get out of here and just shift the energy, even if it's downsizing, even if it's cheaper or more expensive or whatever it is. I don't know. It may just be an in-between moment. And I had this, like, deep trauma around leaving my home that I created safety in. Like, there's that word again, because the feminine craves safety. And I had created safety after growing up in such a chaotic, traumatic way when it came to homes. So I was like, no, this is the place. I planted my roots. And pulling those roots up was such an expansive experience in itself, while going through this heartbreak that literally killed me. Like, I am not that same woman that I was. Like, I'm just not. It's not possible to be. And I moved and I took on a full-time job to be stable, and I just leapt, and I was like, I'm really scared and I don't know what's going to come from this, and maybe it's forever and maybe it's not, and I have no expectation. And I leapt, and now here I am, you know, like, this job in this home, having served its purpose has ended. And being the woman I am in the world, I now understand that when your time in a container, and everything is a container, right? When your time in a container ends, it will begin to force you out. And that's why I think a lot of people will hold on to relationships and jobs and things they feel like they're supposed to, even when it gets so rocky and it's chaotic and it's painful and it's burning them out, but hold on because of fear and false safety. But I'm in a place where I realized, okay, this job has run its course, and this home has run its course, and my nervous system is telling me it's time to go. I moved from a quaint neighborhood in Los Angeles to, like, Wilshire Boulevard, where it's, like, so loud and so crazy and so city and so wild, and my home is beautiful, but and it's everything that was on my vision board, but just came in a different way than I expected. You know, the floor-to-ceiling windows and the large patio and the big bathtub and the open kitchen, and everything's modern, and it was what I wanted. With a pool and a roof that only I have access to, funny enough. But when an opportunity presented itself to leap again, I don't know that I'm ready. I don't know that I was ready to say yes, but I said yes anyway because my body felt like it was time. And this is something that I really want to encourage people to do, especially women, because we are less heady, like the masculine, the male body is so heady and logical and solution oriented. And feminine and the female body is so intuitive, and we don't listen to our bodies enough. And so this was a moment where, like, I leapt into this reality because I needed to be this person and learn this work ethic and learn what this felt like. And now I'm leaping into a reality that I'm like, I have no evidence I can do this. I can afford this beautiful condo I just rented outside of LA. Okay, that
One
was
day.
Foreshadowing.
One day.
Okay, higher self. That I rented outside of LA. Like, I'm leaving LA after 11 years here, and just listening to myself. And you did this too with your jump to LA. Like, you could have kept saying later, later, later. And you chose to jump anyway and land into miracles no matter what. Even though you were sick, even though the weather's been shit. And I'm choosing to leap, and it might be chaos and it might be all these things, but it's a woman trusting her body and knowing that she has got herself. And that has been one of the most, like, wonderful things that you and I are experiencing together in this moment.
Massively. Like, we are on this journey together for sure. But it's funny you say that, you know, about the feminine being so deeply intuitive, because I remember vividly the moment I decided it's happening now in terms of me coming to LA, because like I said, I could have chosen to go last year. You know, I could have, you know, there was many other times where I could have actually taken that action to do it.
In 2020, I had a second bedroom.
I know, right? So, like, there was so many other opportunities, but for me, I remember vividly lying in the bath and my intuition talking to me so deeply. Like, it was such a deep hit, and it literally just said, Jess, you're going now.
Just go.
You're going now.
Yeah.
And it was crazy to me because at that time, like you were saying, I had manifested this amazing flat in the center of Manchester. All of the things that I wanted to, the high ceilings, the big windows, the space for myself. And it was the first time living on my own and actually paying my way on my own, like, you know, really like this luxury place that I had created. And then suddenly my intuition's like, give it all up. Like,
yeah.
let go of everything. And I'm like, what? You know, like, how can I do this now? And yeah, and in making that leap, and there's the other thing that I want to bring up here is that, and we spoke about this earlier on today, there doesn't have to be a reason for it either.
It's that.
You know, like I was feeling so under pressure, you know, and there was a few weeks before I got on the plane where I was like very anxious about a few things, and I actually made a podcast on that. And really it was because I kept putting pressure on myself, thinking, oh, I've got to go to LA and achieve such huge things. And it was all about achievement. It was all about what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And then I had to sit back one day and just go, hang on a sec, why can't I just go because I want to?
Yeah.
You know, and for there not to be any other reason for it and any other motive for it other than my soul is asking me to go right now, and I will figure the rest out later, you know? And I really feel like that's the space I'm in right now. And it's so amazing that I get to play in that with you whilst you're going through exactly the same thing with the big moves and the big leaps you're making in your life. Because when you can stay present in that, that's when things happen. And like I said, as soon as I got here, yes, I was ill. Yes, the weather hasn't been that great, but things manifested almost immediately. Like we found ourselves in a mansion in the hills with producers. Like I found myself, you know, meeting a celebrity and like, you know,
and him taking photos of you around Hollywood and not the other way around. Hilarious.
Literally, I went out for a coffee and this guy that's on a sitcom in LA, and he drove me around the hills and took me around, you know, LA. Such a sweet guy. And, you know, took my picture everywhere.
So casually, just such a nice guy on one of the hit shows right now, starring all of our favorite Disney actress. Like, okay, casual. This is just what we do.
This is just what we do. And like, and I made a vow to myself coming here as well that, again, all of the outside things, all of those physical 3D things aside, you know, the things that we'd usually class as success, you know, the money and the jobs and, you know, getting my sitcom produced and those things, I let all of them go. But the one thing that I did really want to work on whilst coming here inwardly was my, you know, ability to push myself out there socially. Because I have suffered in the past with social anxiety and not putting myself out there. And so I'd vowed to myself coming here, I was not going to say no to any invitation. And within literally the first day, we had like 3 invitations for stuff. So, you know, this is how quickly it happens.
But also, can we talk about the fact that like, because we also need to ground ourselves a little bit here and let you guys know, even though it's effortless, it's also not. Like, we sat outside of 2 out of 3 of these invitations and we were like, oh my god, do we do this? Like, this is so weird. Maybe we don't go in. Like, what did we get ourselves into? What if we get killed? Like, we did the whole thing and then went to these events and like had the loveliest time with the loveliest people, but we also sat outside and we're like, oh, this is where we die.
Yeah.
Like, why did we think that about like an Oscar party at a wine bar in Malibu? Why did we think that?
I have no idea, but
so weird.
This is the thing, like, we are human and we're just going through these experiences and we're just living them and we're staying present in them. And I think that when you make these big leaps in life, it's to not place those expectations on yourself for things to manifest immediately and for things to like change immediately, and just enjoy what you've leapt into. Yeah. And just enjoy letting the things open up for you and the experiences open up for you and the people to come into your life, you know?
Yeah, I think, you know, you literally landed into this reality on a plane, but like you landed into this open to possibilities. Like, I love that you talk about letting go of the expectation of what you were supposed to achieve, because I think that's kind of like what Abraham Hicks talks about, right? It's like this, you've placed the order, let it go. It's already done. It's already there. Now follow your alignment. And, you know, if someone were to ask me, well, what does that feel like? What does alignment feel like? It feels really good. Like, it's that moment that tears could come to your eyes for no reason other than you're like, that just felt good. You know, like today I was choosing my song that I'm going to be walking out to at a conference I'm speaking at, Female Empowerment Conference in Denver in April, and they asked me to pick a song, and I was listening to all these songs, and I had all these feelings, and I was like sassy, and I was like, ooh, I could do this, I could be so sassy and fancy and like such a bad bee. And then a softer song came on the playlist, and I heard it, and I felt myself immediately get emotional, and like I wanted to cry, because I was like, oh, this is how I walk out. And it was just so true. Not that it's my favorite song in the world. It's not. It's a cute song. It's not like amazing either. But it was just that moment of like, this is what is true in my soul at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And that emotion overcoming me and breathing into that and breathing down in my body and feeling how good it feels. And some people might even say, well, how do you know if it feels good, or how do you know what that feels like? Honestly, especially when we're talking about intuition and female bodies and feminine energy, you just do. Like, you know the difference between, oh, this feels good, and oh, this
is right.
Really good, and it's really true, and it's really right for me, and then follow that impulse, and that's why you're here.
Yeah, this is exactly why I'm here, sitting on your sofa right now. But I feel the same way. You know when obviously my ex got in touch, and you were there with me through that when he sent that message, and I felt all the feelings, and it wasn't, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I could react in so many different ways right now. I could be really sassy with what I say, but then I was like, no, actually, when I just sit into all those emotions aside, when I've moved through those emotions, my intuition was just like, this is one of the best moments ever. Like, this is one of the most iconic moments in you, like in the last 3 years for you, because all I felt was I have fully changed. Like, I have fully, like, the woman I am today, the woman I was back then died the moment he left, and like the woman I am today is so completely different, and the feeling of that was complete alignment. That was what I felt. It was like I had those waves, like I was saying, of like anger that he'd come back into my life at the time he did, but then I was like, when I actually sat through it, I was like, I feel so good. Something feels like a chapter is closed, and I just felt so aligned, and that's how I know that the next, who knows what's going to happen with the Saturn Return and with other things that are coming up and other things that we're going to do together in this time that I'm here, but like we're with as you say, following those impulses and doing the things that feel right. So therefore, in my eyes, nothing can really ever go wrong.
Yeah. And it's like, it's so funny because maybe this is cliche, but you literally wait for that moment. Like, especially that first year, you're grieving heartbreak, and you're like, and when he messages me eventually, because they always come back, and you're like telling yourself these stories, and maybe they do, and maybe they don't, and whatever that means. But you wait for this moment, and then you kind of forget about it, and then you let it go, and then there he is, and you have this moment to respond in a way that would either make your past self proud and your future self disappointed, or in a way that would set your future self up for success, and look back and say, like, I'm really proud of myself for being that woman, and you made that choice. Even though we giggled about some responses we could send that were very sassy.
We did.
And that was for us. That was for you. But you chose to rise and be the woman who is your dream girl.
Yeah.
And it has a massive impact.
It really does. Oh, I feel like this is probably a good space to stop and close these like thoughts that we're going through right now. But I feel like we're definitely going to come back and record a lot of these.
We have so much time together and so many thoughts and feelings and things, and possibly, collabs that you guys will hear about in the near future. So we're just going to keep updating, and Jess is going to keep thriving and growing and being that Hollywood babe
and
now.
You are too, Taylor.
Oh, totally, absolutely.
Because she's moving to OC, and she's going to be an OC chick, and it's going to be amazing.
I'm going to be a kept housewife.
You are.
But like a single one. I'm going to keep myself.
Yes, you are. So stay tuned, guys, and I'll chat to you all next week. Hey you guys, I'm just jumping on really quickly at the end of this episode to give you a very exciting announcement. So, me and Taylor are both collaborating to bring you a 2-day workshop with us on everything to do with death and rebirth. So, a lot of the conversations that we have been having in today's episode about how to alchemize that pain, that heartbreak, that grief, that loss that we might go through, any tough time in our life that we feel like we can't see the other side of. We want to help you move through this using our mindset techniques, using our energy work, so that you can rise from the ashes and become the best version of you and alchemize this pain into gold. This is a 2-day workshop live with us where we're going to be hosting 2 live masterclasses plus a live Q&A at the end so that we can answer all of your questions. We'll be hosting this on the 8th and 9th of April. So if you want to come and play in our energy with us, learn how to transform yourself, learn how to rise up into this version of you, then hit the link in my show notes. You can read more about what this masterclass entails. You can get yourself signed up. If you know you can't make it live with us, then you'll be receiving the full masterclass replay for life. So make sure that you do get involved. We are so excited to bring this to you. This is the first time I have brought anything like this in collaboration with another amazing coach. So we are going to be bringing up the energy, ramping it up for this astrological new year, guys. We're going to be moving in, up leveling as always. If you want to come and dive in with us, hit the link in my show notes, drop me a DM with any other questions, and I'll see you all there. Lots of love, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who you think would love it too. And if you want to let me know how you found it, just screenshot this episode, add it to your Instagram story, and tag me at I am Jessica Paul so that I can throw all the love right back at you. And of course, subscribe, hit those 5 stars, and leave a review to show your support and to keep the good stuff coming. Sending you so much love and gratitude from your girl Jess.